Hello, my name is Julie Keck, and I'm the impact producer for the documentary film Chasing Time. And today I'm joined by co-directors Jeff Orlowski-Yang and Sarah Keogh. Jeff, I'd love if you could kick us off today by briefly sharing the genesis of Chasing Ice and how Chasing Time came to be.
Thanks, Julie, and thanks everybody for joining in today. It started back in 2007, and I was in college. And through a friend, I got introduced to James Baylog, and he was like a dream photographer that I wanted to work with. He was a National Geographic photographer. He had cover stories for the magazine. He was living the life that I always dreamed about, traveling the world. And he had this project that he was just starting. And he had this idea to build time-lapse camera systems and to install them all around the world. And I got to join him and this team and this project not as a documentary filmmaker who was going to make a whole movie. The plan was just for me to be a videographer and to capture his story and to capture what he was working on. And so I went out with him in the field to Iceland and we installed the first set of cameras there. And then he invited me to join him to Alaska, where we were installing cameras there. And then he invited me to join him to Greenland. And I was kind of wearing this dual hat as somebody who is helping him with the project and to manage the equipment and installing all the gear. And at the same time, operating a video camera to film what we were doing as a team. And that just continued on. And it took us over 5 years to make Chasing Ice, to make our original film, and to really work to get that story out into the world. Fast forward 15 years, and Jim had left a lot of the cameras out in the field, as you see from Chasing Time. And we knew the project was coming to an end. And James was retiring the Extreme Ice Survey and the work that was built into this legacy of all these years. And we wanted to just do right by honoring the closure of this project and to document the cameras coming down and to try to make something that would encapsulate this lifetime's worth of effort and worth of work. And that was kind of the impetus behind making Chasing Time.
Sarah, I'd love to come to you next. Can you share how you came to be a part of the Chasing Time team and how this project is different because you were involved?
Yeah, so I joined the Chasing Time team originally by first joining the Exposure Labs team back in 2019. So that's when I was fortunate enough to meet Jeff and Larissa at Sundance, where I was working at the time. And having seen Chasing Ice and Chasing Coral, I was telling everyone around me that they were my dream filmmakers to work with. So I approached Larissa, who is Jeff's longtime producing partner, and told her how I was really interested in production and joining the team. And so I came on as a production coordinator for The Social Dilemma and have been with the team ever since. So when I expressed a desire to learn more about directing a couple years ago, the team was kind enough to find this opportunity for me to learn the ropes of directing on Chasing Time. And to your other question of that experience of working and contributing to the project, Jeff and I co-directed together in what I felt like was really a mutual level of respect and trust. And early on, we did have a conversation where Jeff made it really clear that, you know, we are peers and equals, and I felt really comfortable to be able to express my opinion and creative vision through this project. And so it was through this collaboration together that we really came to this theme of mentorship. Early on in one of our creative conversations, Jeff and I had a phone call where he shared what it was like to get this phone call from James about his cancer diagnosis and how emotionally earth-shattering that was for him, and how much James influenced his early career and worldview, and how meaningful James has been in his life as a father figure, a teacher, a friend, and a mentor. And so that's how we really emerged at this mentorship storyline.
Jeff, can you share how the mentorship from James shaped your career and how you've passed this on through your mentorship of Sarah?
James and I have known each other for so many years now, and the kind of the role of mentorship in our relationship has really evolved and shifted over time. I think at the very beginning, he was just so kind of dead set on what he was trying to do with his project, and he had blinders on to a lot of the rest of the world, and I was like, I have to do this. And I got to be there firsthand watching him through all of that and through his artistic struggle and the creative process and him wrestling with his creative process. He would have an idea for a photograph and it would obsess him, and he wouldn't sleep at night, and he would just be thinking about, how do I make this image come alive? And then I got to be on the team to help him make that image come alive. And there are explicit photographs in Chasing Ice that he had a vision for getting the nighttime sky with an iceberg that was lit and painted, and he was dreaming about that for the longest time, and he wanted auroras and he wanted this, and to be there um, while he was struggling to make that image. And there's an image that he made that's in that film that's one of my absolute favorite photographs that he's ever shot. And so I got to be firsthand observing his artistic process and seeing how he tries to make something come alive. And that's at like the micro level of an individual photograph, but then at the macro level of a huge project, and how do you design and build a team and build the support for it. It's been one of the best educations of my life to be involved in that project, and to not be the one who was in charge or responsible, but to be an active participant in helping make it happen and to learn through that process. I think later, as I started to make my own films more explicitly with our teams and with our producing partners, that's something where those skills that I observed from James and learned from him firsthand became like the essential toolkit through which the team and I were able to do the work that we wanted to do. And this process here in making Chasing Time together and having Sarah on as a co-director, it's you don't really get the opportunity to teach and show what you know in like, okay, if we're going to do an hour-long Zoom, we can talk through a whole bunch of stuff, but it's very different than spending 2 years working on a project together and talking about shooting in the field when you're out in the field, and talking about doing sound and post-production when you're, in the mix and when you're in the edit. And so the opportunities to share insights and lessons learned are completely different when you're in the kind of in the lived experience. And so for me, it was an incredibly special process to be able to share with Sarah and to work with the whole team around like learning as we were making it and doing the work in real time, and not trying to treat it as like a class or a workshop, but to have like the lived experience of hands-on education.
Now, Sarah, I'm going to put you in the hot seat a little bit. Would you be willing to share what the experience of working with Jeff was like, and how you hope you can carry forward that energy of as you mentor others?
Yeah, working with Jeff and this team and being mentored in this way was one of the most rewarding and meaningful learning experiences of my life. And, Jeff was talking about the value of lived experience and being able to learn things hands-on. But outside of the technical aspects of filmmaking, I also learned a lot of valuable soft skills as well. And, through Jeff, I learned not just about what it means to be a director, but also how to use your voice to tell a story that inspires change, and to also lead with your values on set, off set, how to communicate your creative vision and also collaborate with others with respect. And there's just building my confidence and being able to speak as a director and talking about a project and what you're hoping to achieve through it. And so there's just a lot of confidence building and trust, and just the ability to be able to build that in a very safe environment was so valuable for me, especially as someone who suffers from imposter syndrome, which I think a lot of people in this industry feel, especially women and people of color. And so I think mentorship is so important, not just within the film industry, but in the climate justice space across all fields, because it's really helping foster this next generation of leaders and change makers. And so we're really encouraging people to take the time to mentor, because anyone can be a mentor. And for me personally, having gone through this experience myself and seeing how much it has transformed me, I hope to continue passing on that baton and mentoring others to help them develop their own voice and creative vision as well.
What was the most challenging part of making Chasing Time, and what was the most rewarding?
It was going out in the field and having to hike with camera gear up to these remote locations. And, as someone who, as a woman of color who grew up in a low-income background in Seattle, it was just not something I've ever done in my life. I've always, been a casual lover of nature, but I've never done anything like that. And so Jeff actually took me out to Rocky Mountain National Park in the middle of a blizzard with a full backpack of camera gear to help prep me for the most extreme elements that we may potentially encounter out in Iceland. And that actually really helped train me for when we were out in the field, because it was not as bad as a blizzard. So I was really proud of myself to be able to go out there and keep up with the boys, as they say, and contribute my part and be out in the field and be able to interview each of the subjects. And it was such a beautiful landscape, and to be able to experience what James says in the film of feeling that spiritual essence of the landscape, that's something that was probably one of the most rewarding aspects of the experience as well.
Jeff, I'm going to ask you too, what was the most challenging part of making Chasing Time, and what was the most rewarding?
We had so much footage. We had so much footage that spanned over 15 years from, I think, literally all 7 continents. Maybe not Australia, but New Zealand. We had New Zealand. And so there's footage over such a period of time. And to be able to distill that down into the core story, and then to be able to make the selections, working with our editor, Dave Ruck, to take the sections of the film that are really looking back retrospectively, and distilling that down, that was a huge, huge endeavor, because there was just so many hundreds of hours of archival footage. And a lot of that process was just like a lot of warm, fuzzy memories personally. And like, seeing myself when I was 20 something years old and working with the team to how do we distill that essence and that heart of such a long documentation of time being distilled into a singular thing. And I think at the same time, that was one of the most rewarding parts, was that we could take over this 15-year record and show somebody, it's sort of like a Boyhood for Glaciers, right? Showing this evolution of the landscape and of the team, and what did this look like as this team came together to try to make this work and put this work out into the world. So this is by far the most personal project that I've made of all the films that I've had a chance to work on, and to work with this team to really document and show that evolution. That was incredibly rewarding.
As someone who spent his career making films that inform, inspire, and activate audiences around the most important issues of our generation, what advice do you have for filmmakers who want to make a film that changes the world for the better? And what can they do if they feel like their goal is too big?
I love talking about the work that we do as a team, and the projects and the mission and the impact and all of that. And I also don't want our work to seem intimidating to other people. It can be intimidating. These have been really, really big projects. And I don't think we ever set out for them to be big projects, or I don't think I would have done them if I knew how intimidating and how big they would have become. Right. And I think part of the lesson for me, or part of the point I'd love to share here, is it's that same mindset of a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. These projects started with a singular, simple idea and a first shoot of going, hey, let's go to Iceland and document, James installing these cameras, or let's just, go on a shoot and see what people are working on. Sarah referenced imposter syndrome earlier, and that's something that I have felt, that we've all felt in different ways. Hopefully you can start with a project that is within your comfort zone, or just a little outside of your comfort zone. Before Chasing Ice, I did a whole bunch of short films with friends, and I directed and I produced and I shot and I edited, and I built enough of the skill set so that starting any of our later projects was just growing from what I felt very comfortable with. And so I think we all feel, at different times, we feel the pressures of the world and the pressures of society and all these things that are broken and need fixing. And I would encourage people to work on something that they're passionate about, something that you're going to have inspiration around for a long period of time. Like, something that will keep you fueled and motivated month after month after month or year after year. And that's something where, like, if you don't have that inner energy to want to dedicate to that work, you're not going to have the stamina to follow through. So hopefully you're finding subjects and ideas and stories that you really care about, that you really want to work on, that you're willing to put your blood, sweat, and tears into because it means so much to you. And you can build a team to help support on the things that you don't know how to do and the skills that you don't have yet or don't want to learn. And you can supplement all those skill sets with other people, and you can convince them that your vision and the project and the meaning is so important. And hopefully, if it's coming from that authentic place, it's going to be really easy to get people to want to join your team because you care about it so much and they also care about it. And so if you start small, grow slowly, build a team, and do the work that you're really, really passionate about, I genuinely believe you can make anything happen. You can make any project come to fruition. And hopefully it's something at the end of the day that you'll be really, really proud of, as my team and I are really proud of this work. Yeah.
Sarah, I have a question for you. For people inspired by the film, what is something they can do after they watch Chasing Time to contribute to the climate movement?
Yeah, so for anyone who is interested in contributing to the climate movement, I want to point to a line at the end of the film that states that this work isn't a sprint, nor is it a marathon, but it's a relay race. And we all run our leg and contribute what we have to offer, and then we pass the baton to the next generation. And so, with this idea in mind, everyone has something to contribute, whether it's through art or science or through volunteering with a local organization or even just joining a community garden. There isn't just one solution to climate change. There are multiple ways that we can make a difference, whether it's on the individual level, the local level, regional, state, even internationally. And so all of these small contributions, when they all come together, they make a big difference. And going back to the mentorship theme, not only do we need more mentors, but you can also seek out a mentor. If you are someone who's interested in learning more about a subject area or a way that you can contribute, go find a mentor, especially in local organizations that are already involved in this work. And that is a great way to then make a contribution to this overall movement.
Jeff and Sarah, thanks for sharing your time today. And thanks also to our Impact partners for sharing Chasing Time with their communities and friends. Most importantly, thanks to those of you who've watched Chasing Time with us. Please share your experience with the film with friends and find resources, including a discussion guide and other films by this team, by going to chasingtime.com.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.